We talked first at 5 about the special legislative session that's going on right now in Albany. Initially, the focus was solely on guns after the Supreme Court decision striking down New York's restrictions on the issuance of concealed carry permits, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. But another Supreme Court decision added a new sense of urgency to something that state lawmakers have tried and failed to get done during previous sessions. That would be the Equality Amendment. It would add to the state constitution the following language that says equal rights may not be denied on account of race, color, ethnicity, national origin, disability, and sex, including pregnancy and pregnancy outcomes, sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. That part about pregnancy and pregnancy outcomes is what's behind the new urgency, with activists calling to enshrine the right to an abortion into New York's state constitution to make it more difficult to remove later on. The state Senate has already passed it. The Assembly is expected to soon. But changing the Constitution isn't a simple process, as we heard during a conversation today with Ryan McCall. He's an associate attorney at Tully Rinke.
In order for this to get across the board, what's going to need to happen is it's going to need to be passed through two separate sessions of legislature. At this point, they've already voted on it for the first time, meaning that next year it's going to come around again. And once it comes around again next year, if it votes passes at that time, then it's going to be on the ballot in 2024, which is really, I believe, what the governor's aiming for at this point.
So this is a few years down the road, and even then it will be dependent on the makeup of the state legislature. The other big question is whether protecting abortion access in the state constitution would stand up to a federal ban on that, should that happen one day. There are many Republicans on the national level who are calling for that, and this man, U.S. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, hasn't ruled it out. Well, we asked the attorney, Mr. McCall, today, which would win out if Republicans in Congress did pass a national abortion ban one day.
But typically at that point, you would need to look at the supremacy clause. It all is somewhat dependent on how expansive the bill is, which my understanding is hasn't been totally released at this point. So it's somewhat of a wait and see pattern we're in right now, just deciding to see what's going to go into this. Is this going to be something that's going to clash with the federal law? How will that clash work out? And that's typically dependent on how expansive it is. Typically, the less expansive, you would see that the state would most likely prevail. If it's something very overarching, you may be more likely to see the federal law prevail.
And even then, he says who comes out ahead in that dispute would likely have to be settled once again by the U.S. Supreme Court.